Hi, everybody. Happy. I'm so happy. Okay, this is June 23rd, 2026, the day before, just a few hours, it'll be Richard's birthday, and we have some special things planned for that. Wow. Okay, so let's get started. We are at 2,152 days since Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room there on Fort Bliss. He was forcibly removed and taken downstairs to the basement room, which is the arms room. It's been totally renovated now, obstructing justice and um, hiding, removing, tampering with evidence. Um, and his life was taken there, and his body was stolen off of Fort Bliss and trafficked to Chihuahua, Mexico, Juarez, Chihuahua, Mexico, for disposal. And there is evidence that indicates his organs were harvested. Um, it's brutal. I know it's brutal. I do it every day. I say it every day, and it doesn't get easier at all. Um, and so we're reaching out. I am his mother. I am Patricia Halliday. And so we have been fighting every day to get the truth out there because what Richard did was huge. He was the Fort Bliss whistleblower. The Fort Bliss whistleblower that corroborated President Trump's policies and stance, and he absolutely his unit, Fort Bliss, has been infiltrated, or it was infiltrated by the El Chapo Sinaloa cartel and others, the El Paso cartel conglomerate, and they orchestrated together the Walmart mass shooting to frame it and weaponize it against President Trump in order to sabotage his 2020 reelection and to push Beto O'Rourke ahead, get funding for him in October for the second quarter. Beto O'Rourke had raised over $4 million just in just in that little time after the Walmart mass shooting. Richard, of course, along with Glennon Oakley Jr. Glennon Oakley Jr. was found not alive in his barracks room in April of 2020, and Richard, he was removed and his life taken in July of 2020. Um, just a lot has happened because, of course, this was an internal where the CID was involved and his chain of command was involved. And we have overwhelming hard evidence of all of that we have been presenting day in and day out. And so um, in April 24, of 2024, the Board of Inquiry for the U.S. Army had really no choice. They were driven to, even without his remains being returned to us, to declare Richard deceased. And then in 2025, January 24th, to be specific, um, they had to redesignate him as in the line of duty. And this was not because, of anything benevolent, okay? This was because of hard evidence. You just don't redesignate a soldier without hard evidence. So the evidence is robust and absolutely jaw-dropping that they had to redesignate him in the line of duty, which confirms that he was killed on Fort Bliss in retaliation for being a whistleblower. And then, of course, that was followed up by not one, but two letters and more and more um, from President Trump on his plans for accountability. And that's why they're redacted because, um, it's all playing out now. It's all playing out now. And once the accountability is there, um, then people can read the whole letter. But there's a lot of demons, a lot of bad actors that don't want to see accountability in Richard Halliday's case, and they don't want to see us have his remains repatriated to for honors for an honorable burial. Um, they were pushing a memorial or on us, and we have refused that because we knew that that was them checking off a list, right, that they had to do in as the casualty affairs office. The casualty affairs have played games with us. They assigned us a asymmetric warfare officer that used his training against us. We caught him. And, it goes on and on and on. And so I have a video that I want to play that I think is a good lead in to today's podcast. So here it goes.
Donald Trump means nothing. Why can nobody stop talking?
Let me play it this way. Wait a minute.
Donald Trump means nothing. Why can nobody stop talking about him? Think about that. Every single day, every channel, every newspaper, every podcast, every court, every protest, every speech from every politician who says they do not care about him. All of it. About one man. They say he is irrelevant, then they spend 8 hours a day talking about him. They say he is a joke, then they spend millions of dollars trying to stop him. They say he is dangerous, then they cannot look away. That is not what ignoring someone looks like. There is something in Scripture that has always stayed with me. When Jesus walked into a room, the demons spoke first. Not the priests, not the scholars, not the powerful men who had studied God their whole lives. The demons. They recognized something the others could not see, and they could not stay silent about it. I am not making a direct comparison. I am pointing to a pattern. The people most obsessed with destroying someone often sense something about that person that they cannot explain and cannot accept. Herod was obsessed with a baby in a manger. No army, no money, no power, just a child. And Herod could not sleep. That is what obsession tells you. It tells you that somewhere beneath all the noise, someone knows this matters. Someone knows this is real, and that terrifies them. You do not spend 10 years trying to destroy something that means nothing. You do not dedicate your entire career to stopping a man you believe is irrelevant. The obsession is the confession. They cannot stop talking about him because they cannot stop him. And deep down, they know it.
Okay, I wanted to play that on a bigger screen, and anyway, I'm just so glad to come on a little bit earlier. But that is really, really important because it really applies to what they did to President Trump, very much so, and still are doing, and also what they did to Richard and to our family. The first person after we made our phone call, it was the demons that spoke up. It was Belen Rocha and Jay Paulin and all those that wanted to cover um, for their attack on on our son. And they come out and they will talk benevolent, like they're on your side or whatever. It's all deception. And I think this is really important for everyone to know that we have a lot of bad actors, a lot of criminals that are really operatives for the cartel network, for the El Paso cartel network, that have infiltrated in our institutions, that are deceivers, that are fraudsters. And I think this is a good time to really stress that, because it is clear that our Department of Justice and our law enforcement is revealing just the level of fraud, the level of deception that we have in our institutions. I know that um, FBI Director Kash Patel came out today with the DOJ and announced, the arrest of major fraudsters. And so, with the El Paso cartel conglomerate that includes the El Chapo Sinaloa cartel, the CJNG cartel, the Trinidad cartel, the Juarez cartel. The first three are designated transnational terroristic organizations. So that is really important, because these people were aiding and abetting, even participating, part of, operatives of transnational terroristic organizations. And those transnational terroristic organizations go from El Paso through Mexico into Central America and the Caribbeans over into Iran, or directly from Fort Bliss because of deployments to the Strait of Hormuz. Richard was first reporting from Qatar. You can say Qatar, you can say Qatar, tomato, tomato. That's where he was first reporting on how bad things were, how bad his chain of command was. And when he meant bad, he meant they were criminal. Okay. And, and that was from Qatar. He wanted to make the military his career. He was the distinguished honor graduate for his cycle in basic training. That means he was number one. He was the number one soldier. He was the number one soldier for AIT. He was the fastest runner in his unit. He all three of his promotions were with waivers. It was super quick. And of course, he received 3 AAMs very quick, I think in 13 months. He was a guidon bearer. He was a combat lifesaver. He wanted to be a CID agent to fight crime. That was his love. The was investigating crime. And he watched every episode of, gosh, all kinds of crime shows. And I've listed those out. And so, when he got to Qatar, he said no. It was so bad. It was so bad. And so that connected everything to Iran. And we know that Fort Bliss is connected to Iran, because in the 1980s and we had we had Colonel North, didn't we? We had the Iran Contra. We had Khashoggi, whose financier or financial expert was Jeffrey Epstein. And when all that blew over, it never went away. It just was covered up. And Jeffrey Epstein then bought Zorro Ranch right there on the north call up of White Sands Missile Range. And I've showed that map, and it's really important for people to understand that the Iran-Contra never went away. The guns for drugs never went away. And it's a lot of money. It just evolved. It evolved, and you have very bad actors in this, and you have the El Paso cartel operative Alejandra de la Vega Foster, uh, who is a double agent, right? She was appointed by Governor Abbott to his administration and as co-chair to his inaugurations. Um, and also, she was appointed um, for economics, finance, also sitting on the committees for border security and law enforcement for Javier Corral, the governor of Chihuahua, Mexico. And this was simultaneously, it was at the same time, and bringing, and she, uh, her and say she brought in Cesar Paneche, who for the Attorney General for Chihuahua, Mexico, and this is all at the same time that she's serving, swearing to Texas to the U.S. Constitution. She's, a cabinet member in Chihuahua, which is a double agent. It's so illegal. Um, and violating both Mexican sovereignty and the U.S. sovereignty, and teaming up, allying with Maru Campos, and then betraying Javier Corral, betraying him badly, and with also Cesar Paneche, and uh, what just came out was huge, and there's so much I want to talk to you about. So I'm so glad I coming on earlier, um, because Maru Campos, when she became governor, she had a warrant out for her arrest for embezzlement. I mean, taking from the Chihuahuan people the taxpayer funds, and more and more. But uh, Cesar Pache couldn't really cover for her. The warrant already was out there. She had an active warrant out for her arrest. But what he could do is not move it forward. He never arrested her. And we have, because of working so hard and reaching out to Mexico and reaching out to really Americans and the whole world, and going on every day, earning people's trust and earning people's, um, uh, respect, that we have received very, very good information. And that information is that Cesar Paneche has taken a payment for ignoring or not following through with the arrest of Maru Campos. And that was facilitated, or and I want to get the right words here, by Alejandra de la Vega Foster. Alejandra de la Vega Foster, with her husband, um, Paul Foster and Woody Hunt, they are the ones that advocated and insisted that Cesar Paneche would be brought up from Mexico City to be the Attorney General of Chihuahua, Mexico. He, if you remember, we've reported on him that, uh, about the fuel theft. Okay. He has a huge conflict of interest with his Grupo Carvel, and stealing fuel, stealing Pemex fuel from the Mexican people, from the Chihuahuan people, and then reselling it to Maru Campos for taxpayer money again. And Grupo Carvel had the contract for providing fuel for the law enforcement there in Chihuahua. He had the exclusive contract for that. So, and of course, we know that Paul Foster had to pay out. It probably was a really good deal for him. I think it was 42 to 45 million dollars in a plea deal because he got caught buying um, stolen fuel from Pemex, from cartels that had stolen fuel from Pemex. So this, we could go on and talking about all their connections, but I think that you get it. I think you get it, and I think uh, the the message here, and with that video that shows um, that there is a real problem at the border and in our judicial system and in our system, that there is an infiltration and an infiltration of people that do not care about the oath of office, do not care about our Constitution, which is a very beautiful thing. I mean, we have flags all over our house right now preparing for the 250th anniversary of our country because look at what we've accomplished. Of course, it's work. We've had to work very, very hard. And people have told us that we would never ever get anywhere in with our son's case. They still tell us that about our son, but that is not what's really happening, right? That's not reality. There's a lot of false narratives, false advice, and a lack of faith. I think a lack of faith. I mean, look, this cardinal that was just talking, he's an AI cardinal. He's an AI. It takes an AI cardinal to speak truth to power, because so many of our true religious leaders are, silenced. That 501c3 is it could be risk. I think that is the greatest argument for getting rid of our tax code. But I don't want to digress into that. But yeah, the whole point of that is that President Trump is a real change, and and a real threat to the El Paso cartel conglomerate, who has tentacles that reach internationally, all across the United States, because Sinaloa cartel is huge, CJNG, and uh, um, the Tren de Aragua. This is international. And then when you have the the Iran element, the Iran Contra kind of element that has developed over time, and of course, um, is much more complicated because of the spread of it. But we have to know, uh, well, we know from Richard, we know that Iran is involved. We know that from reports that that's where the fentanyl precursors come, a lot of trafficking, a lot of weapons trafficking, a lot of human trafficking, a lot of really evil things that go through there. But it's a lot of money. It's a lot of illicit money that they don't pay taxes on. So they don't, feel like they have to follow the laws of the sovereign countries that they live in. They like to colonize in a very evil way, take over areas, and they've taken over Chihuahua. Um, and you even can read President Trump's words where he said south of the border they've taken over, right? They've infiltrated and they've taken over the sovereignty. And so what his negotiations with Mexico is for them to fight for the sovereignty of Mexico and return it back to its real original power, and take it away, or dismantle the cartel control over the country. And so if he's going to do that with Mexico, of course he's doing that with the epicenter, which is El Paso. Okay, he's doing it with the epicenter, and it's just narrowing in every month, every week, every day. You can see how it is narrowing in on El Paso, and one good example of that is Ted Cruz. So I wanted to play a Ted Cruz video because he is very nervous, right? He's very nervous about the lack of, I guess, allowing fentanyl precursors to be trafficked back through the El Paso corridor, or getting money for weapons or whatever trafficking, all of those billions of dollars, because he's from Texas. And clearly, the way he has responded to our son's case or not responded, it tells you that his interests are for those of the El Paso cartel. And here he is, a rhino, right? He's a rhino, and we're stuck with him, kind of like with Greg Abbott, but not for long, not forever. But it's really a problem. It's really a problem, but we can drive him to do the right thing. Um, we can drive, and this is um, our goal. Our goal is to get him to do the right thing. Maybe he can be redeemed. I don't know for his inaction, because he's been like a non-senator, right? Get on senator pay, and so let's watch his response to the whole Iran deal, that this agreement, right? This agreement between Iran and the United States, that and I really love the way this and I don't know what his name is, but how he presents this, because it's very true. And then I'll add on how it relates to our son's case. And I think I have it at the right time. Yeah. So let's do this. Let's see if I can play it without. Yeah.
Optimistic. Ted Cruz. Now, why would Ted Cruz be so angry? Well, Ted Cruz is a flat-out neocon. And as far as I'm concerned, if Ted Cruz is angry, we're heading in the right direction. But here's Ted from the other day on Ben's podcast here. Actually, that's Ted Cruz's podcast. He had Ben on. Whatever. Ted Cruz. Blah. Ted Cruz is such a douchey dude. But I used to love Ted Cruz. It's because he was like the staunch conservative,
He's
the guy you could
deceiver.
trust. And it turned out he's
deceiver.
just really good at his job on the conservative side, but he's basically still a neocon. Here we go.
The administration has now released the memorandum of understanding that has been signed, and so we know the text of it. And as we said in the last podcast, it was highly concerning, and it turns out every bit of those rumors were accurate, and what was being circulated was in fact what was in it.
Not true.
I believe the president is.
First of all, that's a flat out lie. Flat out lie. This is why Trump used to call Ted Cruz Lying Ted. That's a flat out lie. Many of the rumors about the MOU were not true, including the idea that we were just going to give them $300 billion. But here's the problem. And this is why these guys don't gain traction anymore, because there's people like me and several others out there who are like, context matters, Ted. You can't play the game anymore where you just throw out this propaganda saying factoid, whatever, taken out of context with no understanding, because we'll call you on it. But regardless, that was a flat out lie.
Is getting very poor advice on this. And history teaches a very simple proposition. which is that giving billions of dollars to theocratic lunatics who want to murder us is a very, very bad idea. Yeah. This deal envisions funneling $300 billion to the Ayatollah and the Islamic regime in Iran. I think that is that would be a very serious mistake.
Do you understand the framing here? This is all framing, okay? Because is there $300 billion accessible in this package? Yes. Is it coming from our tax dollars? No. Is it all about just giving the Ayatollah money to do with as they wish? No. And we're going to talk about what they're doing with it in a minute here, and some of the beginnings of what this looks like. Of how we got some information on that yesterday. But the framing is what is the problem here. Cruz is outwardly lying and telling the whole world that Trump's deal, this guy that he supports, that he's supposed to be on the Republican side of things, is just a blank check, instead of telling everybody the truth, which is going to be monitored, which it'll be released in, if even all the Gulf states bring that much together, but it'll be released in tranches. They have to earn release, and then it will be monitored. We just got word that a lot of the money that the assets we were about to unfreeze, well, first of all, they have to earn it, and then when they unfreeze that money, it will be used to buy American food, our soy, our corn, our wheat, and that food will be bought and sent to Iran. So we will make money off their assets. Basically, they're not even getting the money. They're getting the food from those unfrozen assets. Does anybody truly believe that the Trump administration would do that $300 billion any differently? It doesn't make any sense. And yet Ted has no problem lying.
I think if the Ayatollah gets $300 billion, that money will be used to fund terrorism and to murder Americans. And so it is very much...
Again, framing. He's making a prediction right here that we have no way of knowing is true.
Okay, so I hope you watch the whole thing, because he even has a clip with Iran and President Trump's response of, taking over the Strait of Hormuz and charging a toll, and it's just amazing. President Trump is an incredible leader, and you just can't predict what he's doing without understanding Richard's case. I really, and that's why I can kind of smile a little bit in this horror that we're living through, because when Ted Cruz speaks, I understand where he's coming from and why he's so deceptive and why he's so compromised and who he's compromised to. And instead of being, at the beginning so confused, and heartbroken, knowing that he received the Judge Rodriguez's whistleblower complaint, naming the prime suspects in the murder of our son, and his withholding that information from us, and writing a letter that was just really a puff, just to put it on record. But he had no intention of wielding his power as a U.S. senator for our son, for a U.S. Army soldier his life was taken on Fort Bliss because of cartel infiltration in our military on our base, so much so that they could steal his body off of base and cover it up, and so for and to traffic his body over to Mexico, and then to have the emergency intake center be built on Fort Bliss. After that, where they trafficked 500,000 children. Ted Cruz doesn't care about lives of people, okay? He doesn't care about lives of people. He is a lying Ted Cruz. He does not care about our veterans. He does not care about our military installation. He does not care about that unless it's for self and aggrandizement, unless he can make some money off of the contracts and get funding for his his want to be president or whatever, to win again as senator or whatever. It's very, very clear that people buy their fruit, and it's very clear. And President Trump, of course, he is the Republican senator, and so yeah, so it's heartbreaking that we need more to choose from, right? We need more to choose from, but the retaliation and politics is so dirty today that you have to do politics, right? You have to do politics. And so President Trump is the ultimate politician. I mean, he doesn't want to be, but he is the ultimate politician, and he plays politics. And so we have Ted Cruz as a senator of Texas, but we know who he is. We see behind the curtain. We understand that Alejandro de la Vega was on Greg Abbott's administration and was chosen to chair his inaugurations. And we know that her husband, Paul Foster, was buying stolen Pemex fuel from the cartels. We know that Woody Hunt has major contracts with the housing and the military and more. We know that Alejandro de la Vega Foster's ally is Maru Campos, the El Chapo fentanyl governor, really the El Chapo proxy for Chihuahua, Mexico. We know that their bigger plan in all of this that Richard pulled on or revealing along with President Trump. You can say President Trump is saying there's problems at the border. And what were they doing? They were spending a lot of money to say, oh, he's crazy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's, doesn't have any compassion for migrants or immigrants. And, but then you have Richard Halliday backing him up, saying, yes, there is a problem. There is a problem. And there is a cartel problem, and it is very bad, and it extends over to Iran, and it is a national security threat, a national security breach. And see, they didn't appreciate that. See, they didn't appreciate someone corroborating President Trump when they were trying to get rid of President Trump so that they could go on with their plans to build this Centinela, Pegasus, data harvesting, spyware, AI, tower, border, spy grid, really data collecting spy grid, where they would employ the towers. Important because it's AI, and AI, when you have the Pegasus spyware where it's harvesting all your data, breaking into all, your passwords are nothing, it just cuts right through your passwords and collects all your data, even tapping into your live phone calls. But what do you do with all this data? Well, you employ a lot of people that run AI and run all this data through the AI that memorize, organize, analyze, and then weaponize this data. And for many different reasons, and it gives them incredible power. And this is what was going on at the border. And this is why the news is so incredible last couple days, because this whole Centinela power grid with the tower, Torre Centinela, uh, it really got a 1-2 punch. It's on the Mexican side. It's along the border, right on I mean, you could throw a stone and hit that tower. It's right there by the bull ring, right? The bull ring in Juarez. And I've posted up pictures and everything, but um, why is it important that it is on the Mexican side, right? And then why is it important that they literally put them on a secret payroll, the CIA, the FBI, the DEA, the ATF, the CBP, the DPS, all of that inside Chihuahua, right? Inside Mexico, violating Mexican sovereignty, employing American agents, giving them office space to assess this data harvesting using the Israeli Pegasus spyware in order to, like I said, memorize it, organize it, analyze it, and weaponize it in this tower with access to like 10,000, Maru Campos said 10,000 cameras, drones, and and these people, these agents were walking around with their M4s fully automatic inside the government buildings in Chihuahua, which is so illegal. She had a deal with the consul, right? The consul general Foley for visas, giving those that were hired or those that are part of the cartel conglomerate. I want to say cartel conglomerate because it's the Sinaloa cartel, it's the CJNG cartel, it's the Tren de Aragua cartel, it's the Juarez cartel, it's La Linea cartel, giving them access into the United States, visas to buy homes, to get a driver's license, to get bank accounts, then to launder money, then. So this is what has been happening at the border. And now we have President Trump letting the FISA just expire, right? And the FISA is, spying without a warrant, right? So the legal protection of what these American agents were doing, that has really gotten a 1-2 punch, okay? And so FISA allowed this spying, this data collection without a warrant. And it's just very, legally it's starting to all piece together why they decided to do this on the Mexican side, why they were employing our agencies, dirty agents like Todd Petkus and David Scott Frost, that was also, in the Fiscalia with the handpicked Attorney General there in Juarez, Carlos Manuel Salas for Maru Campos, and all these agreements that they were making, right, for spying. They wanted this legal protection. Well, that has been taken away, a big chunk of it. And another thing that came out was the Supreme Court has now allowed the border agents to not extend the green card holder or visa entry when they are a criminal. This is a huge hit too at the border. So President Trump absolutely knows what's happening at the border. He knows that we are in a very vicious negotiation for the repatriation of our son's remains. Um, and he knows that because of the infiltration, years and years of infiltration by this cartel network that is a transnational terroristic organization that has infiltrated our government, both in Mexico and the U.S., that we have to politics our way through this. Is that the right way to say it? We have to absolutely have a different board, a different a different game board, a different strategy to dismantle what what they put up, using our system very badly, using our system against us while they themselves violated every part of it. It's they're adulterous. They're double agent, adulterers, violating, using our system and violating it for themselves. So weaponizing it against us, weaponizing it against Richard, clearly, and they weaponized it against President Trump, and they themselves just abuse it and don't care at all, and they try to destroy it. So it is leads to this other video, because like I said, they weaponized their power in the unit, in the chain of command on Fort Bliss, in the DA's office, in the AUSA's office. So that's federal and state prosecutors. And then over in Mexico, they did the same. And also in the VA. And the VA is important because it links to a lot of fraud, a lot of VA fraud, and a lot of medical access to files, right? And that they want access to files. And so we see that with the connection with Nadal Baim and his family, the connection in the AUSA, which is the federal prosecutors, as well as family connections in the DA's office. And this is also with Michael Maiello. So explain, I need a song called Explain Nadal Baim and Explain Maiella, right? Explain Maiella, because they're in the system and clearly with every bad intention on our son's case. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, please, um, there's so much information, because Nadal Baim is the father-in-law of Lieutenant Colonel Bradford Bugado in the G3 of the 32nd ATCOM, our son's chain of command, who walked into a Dollar General in October of 2020, demanding that the posters of our son, the flyers, be taken down, and getting caught on CCTV footage, telling the cashier that Richard's partial remains were in Mexico and that he was dead. And this is when we were being told that our son was missing. And he has the Baim. It's been confirmed that he is also family with cartel operatives. He is, connected to UTEP, into Fort Bliss. He is central to our son's case, a central bad actor. And of course, he just has connections with the Hearts and Dallas Wayne Hart is the prime suspect in our son's taking our son's life, and Nadal Baim was just caught trying to flee the country to go back to Kuwait with $44,000 of stolen money. So that's not us. That is the court case. That is public information. And, and then, it just really connects all from there, their infiltration into our system to carry out this kind of funeral fraud with the Purchase Orellano Caron family. That is a transnational funeral fraud that is connected to Abbott-Campos's administration, where we believe the Plenitude Crematorium is where our son's partial remains were disposed of. So it all starts connecting. Richard's case is like an octopus. It has many different tentacles, but it all is all connected, and it's all connected with the El Paso cartel and its alliances with the Mexican cartels that have been designated as transnational terroristic organizations, and also then the Juarez cartel in Linea. But the infiltration into the VA is very real. Richard's prime suspect, his platoon leader's father, James Courtney Hart, was IDS Pueblo administrator, which is like death benefits and disability benefits for veterans. He had access to that, and that's and he was reported to be using soldiers' signatures and social security numbers and committing fraud with those accounts for personal gain. And a lot of worse things he was officially reported in affidavits of doing. And so we believe that because of this funeral fraud and the abuse of veterans, they absolutely did that to Richard. There's more evidence, but I'm just summarizing for you. And so this video is really important because it shows the level of abuse that Richard suffered by people that were supposed to care for him. His chain of command were obligated to care for him. They retaliated against him to destroy him, and they ended up ordering him and also taking his life and all the cover up, and then going after us for asking where our son was. Okay, they didn't like us just say, "Where's Richard? Where's Richard?" And we were we're on record every day, very nice about all things, and they just really abused us, and so they need to be held accountable for what they did to our son and to our system and to the families that have the right to know. And Ted Cruz didn't tell us. Okay, so he's one of the abusers. But yeah, so I just want to show this because I think it's really important. Just a clip of it.
Matthew Cox, and the system that ever let somebody like this near a veteran in the first place. Now, before I get too much into the video, this is a tough one for me. As you guys know, I have a 17-year-old, 6-foot-tall, 200-pound special needs person that lives in my house. He's my son. He is profoundly autistic, nonverbal. One day he may live in a home like this. And I'm very sensitive to looking at all these types of topics because these people don't have advocates. You are their advocate. Here's more on the story.
That's my husband when he was in the Marines. O'Toole served in the Gulf War, where Sangro says an explosion left him with a traumatic brain injury and years later, a devastating Alzheimer's diagnosis. As his condition got worse, she made the difficult decision to place him in the VA. And at first, Sangro says O'Toole was thriving at the federal facility in Montrose. But after he was moved across campus to the state-run veterans home, she says everything changed.
That was the biggest mistake that I made, was moving him.
Sangro says her husband began rapidly declining, appearing agitated and heavily medicated during visits, sometimes appearing with mysterious bruises and injuries.
And you can see he was obviously hit with something.
That's when Sangro decided to secretly place a camera inside his room.
Everything about this video is awful.
Never imagining it would record.
It looks like a nightmare.
This. The video, now being shown publicly for the first time, begins with O'Toole's longtime aide yanking food out of his hands. Seconds later,
He picks him up by his neck and throws him in the chair, and then he forcefully pulls him into the chair and punches him in the side of the face or the neck.
moments later, the video appears to show the aide striking O'Toole on the head with a broom before forcing him back into a restraint chair. At one point, O'Toole can be heard crying out in pain.
Ow, ow, ow.
So as you can see, what that video captured is disgusting. This man can't defend himself. He doesn't even think, process, or know to defend himself. Just takes it. Because again, he's not processing that defense mechanism, the one he probably had really good control of whenever he was in the Gulf. But one thing's for sure, guys, that video is absolutely beyond disgusting. A so-called caregiver, this dude named Matthew Cox, yanking food out of this man's hands, lifting him by his neck, dragging him across the room, punching him. This isn't an accident. This is not this guy misunderstanding. This is a deliberate attack on a vulnerable veteran who could not fight back, and this man knew that he could not fight back. We call that cowardice of the highest order. Real men don't prey on the weak. Real caregivers don't treat human beings like punching bags. Whatever uniform Matthew Cox wore to work, whatever badge he had around his neck, that was a costume. Because underneath it all is a big bully that targeted someone who he knew could not fight back and defend himself. Folks, what you're seeing right here is not some kind of a bad day at work. It's not compassion fatigue. It's not some training gap. This is a human being, a Gulf War veteran being handled like an object and assaulted by the very person who was paid to protect him and take care of him. Now, if you indulge me a little bit more about my son and why this pisses me off so much. Again, my son is profoundly autistic and nonverbal. He cannot.
And I hope you take some time to watch that video, because it really goes into Patrick Crucius a little bit as far as understanding what autistic people, their limitations. So, and how they can be taken advantage of, right? Like Patrick Crucius, the alleged shooter, one of, well, we know there were multiple shooters, but the alleged shooter for the Walmart mass shooting orchestration, bloody Walmart mass shooting that was orchestrated and staged. We know that now to frame it, to weaponize it, to attack President Trump, and sabotage the 2020 election against him. And in favor of Beto O'Rourke, and to frame it to be anti-gun, and all you have to do is see that Beto O'Rourke in his October filing for his second quarter, or the quarter right after the Walmart mass shooting on August 3rd, 2019, he raked in like over $4 million in donations just in that little short time. So, that's why that is important. But what I wanted to really stress here is that, there are people that have a job, and their job is to take care of somebody, right? And they're responsible for that person. And, when you are a soldier that voluntarily joins the military, you depend that your chain of command will have your best interests, will have your six, no soldier left behind, an army of one, be all you can be, all of those things that they tell you, and not be infiltrated with the cartel that will weaponize their positions, their, of course, the platoon leader and the platoon sergeant or the first sergeant, and the generals and all that weaponize the lieutenant colonel, Michael Roddick, Captain Park, David Park, all weaponize their position against Richard and against our family, and clearly have compromised themselves with the El Paso cartel, and which includes the El Chapo Sinaloa cartel that is designated a transnational terroristic organization. That's how serious this is when it comes to our national security and what a national threat this is, and of course our son's life that they ended. So our enemy is not outside of Fort Bliss, right? It was right there inside Fort Bliss, inside the barracks, inside the arms room, and inside the headquarters, because don't forget that FBI agent, lead agent of the Walmart mass shooting, David Scott Frost, was also an active duty NCO in the headquarters division of First AD under Sean Bernabe, which is so illegal. This is a double agent. Something really serious was going on in the infiltration of our military and agencies at the border, and why they did it. The money is just the illegal money that they don't even, illicit money that they make in the trafficking, and all of the terrible things that they do, because, and I've reported on this, they're so vile and vulgar. They make this situation that I just showed you look pretty easygoing, but they're so vile and vulgar, and they seem to all be part of like this sex cult. The evidence that we have collected is just, would make your skin crawl, and it includes a lot of pornography and a lot of abuse of children, and even flesh eating, and all of that. It's just the demons. It's the demons, and the demons were speaking first. And so that is why, we absolutely appreciate your support, so that we can stand against this evil. And thank God that President Trump is dismantling it. We need to hold Ted Cruz's feet to the fire. He's in there. I don't know how much longer I think he just won, and they served 6 years. We need to hold his feet to the fire. And he needs to be educated, right? President Trump said he needs to be educated. Matter of fact, I have that. Let's play that real quick. That is really brilliant. There we go.
Mr. President, what will you say to allies of yours like Senator Cruz, who's been critical of the Iran?
Well, I think anybody that's been critical of it has to be educated, even if they're friends of mine. Because we have Iran in a position that nobody's ever had. It should have been done for 47 years by other presidents. And we have Iran in a position where Their military has been totally wiped out. Their leadership has been wiped out. Their radar has been wiped out. Everything's been wiped out. They have not a good negotiating position. But despite that, and money that.
So it's a little bit noisy, but I'll tell you that he makes a great point. President Trump makes a great point because, Ted Cruz is like, oh, they might attack the United States and the American people, and fear porn, right? Fear porn, and they have no navy, they have no army. It's been wiped out, and just in a little bit, it was wiped out, and so and what is he saying? He needs to be educated, uh, and there needs to be real change. Real change. What are you supposed to do? Just devastate the country, or are you going to do? He's not even doing regime change, even though many of them have been killed. Um, he's making them legitimate, right? He's making the country legitimate again. And they're very controlled by China and even Russia. Iran it's a gateway to China and Russia. Of course, there's a lot of oil, so there's a lot of infiltration there also. And so, I think if someone that doesn't have access, like our family, understands and can get educated in it, it tells you the deception that Ted Cruz is willing to engage in with the false narrative against President Trump's amazing memorandum of understanding, where he never did he I have to look it up what his stance was with the Abbott-Campos and Governor Abbott treasonous treaty, right? And of course with our son's case. So it is very interesting, and I think all the pieces are coming together for everyone to understand and see through the deception. And it takes an AI cardinal to speak truth to power, which was amazing. And God works in amazing ways, and his hand has been all over this to reveal the truth to us, and we have to just keep investigating, keep moving forward. And tomorrow, of course, is Richard's birthday, and we want to honor him. We want to honor him, and in that is I'll just reveal it. We're going to put out a petition that his case is reviewed for the medals to be decorated. We feel like he's all the paperwork that we have makes him eligible for multiple medals of distinction, and even a review of the Medal of Honor, of course, the Purple Heart and the Soldier's Medal, and so that petition will be up tomorrow on his birthday, and we're going to follow that with letters to Senator Cruz and Senator Graham, and to our congressional representatives. We hope that you will also help us and sign the petition. We need about 100,000 signatures on that petition. That would get the attention of to move forward to get those decorations. And I'll have more about that tomorrow. We have been reviewing all of the requirements for that. And Richard, he meets them. We have all the paperwork for that. So now is the time. I think now is the time, absolutely. And I think it will really help in our negotiations for the repatriation of his remains to bring him home. The more we say Richard's name, the closer we get to that. And so I think this is a way to honor him and also move closer for that too, to get full honors for his remains. Yeah, let me see all the comments. And thank you, Laura, for coming on. Thank you so much. I don't think we have communism. We have communists that want to install communism in our country. But I can tell you, with what's happening legally with our case, it's been kind of amazing. Makes you really respect it more, because there's so much fraud, y'all. There's so many fraudsters, and that needs to be cleaned up. Did you see the new video out of all the drug cartels that they have taken out involving DEA, FBI, police department? Thank you so much for that. I haven't seen all of them, but a lot of them. And we absolutely know that there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes that the media is not covering, because the media is captured. It's captured by the El Paso cartel conglomerate. Absolutely. So yeah, there is, I'm very optimistic of what's going on, especially that the FISA wasn't renewed. That is, really hurts their plans, okay, to spy on us without a warrant. And also, the visa, that if you're a criminal, nope, you can't come into our country. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. That's really good too. It took over 3 years. The FBI was giving a heads up, DEA on the payroll. Yeah, this was hidden inside. We had CIA on the payroll for Abbott-Campos, and 2 of them in an unauthorized operation. They were ambushed and killed, viciously killed. 80 billion. Yeah, wow. That's a lot. Thank you so much for that information. 80. The money is staggering. It really is staggering. We're getting Chip Roy next. Hopefully he'll be a better senator than Rhino Cornyn. We'll see. We'll see. The tentacles of the El Paso cartel are far-reaching. And it really matters what a person's character is. It really matters what their character is. And that's why we need to get back to family values and to faith, faith and love for country. And I think President Trump is working very, very hard. I think he understands that, because look at how he is trying to renew patriotism and love for our country. The whole FIFA has been such a major blessing to that effort. So of national sovereignties, getting back to national sovereignties and how important that is. So yeah, that is, we have to have protection too. We need the Save America Act, right? We need protection for our elections and getting more people in there. So there has to be a whole reboot of how we choose our elected officials. So President Trump knows about the Centinela project. Oh, absolutely, he knows. He knows about the Abbott Campos treasonous treaty. I mean, he just dismantled it in a way. I mean, letting FISA expire is just like, wow. Think about it. Yeah, think about it. because they don't have the legal cover now, and then, they can be sued. They can be absolutely sued by companies that they want to use the Pegasus to harvest the data from companies and business deals, or medical or whatever, and VA, whatever they want to harvest. And if they get caught using that data, they can be sued now. They don't have the protection of FISA. Um, uh, and I'm sure experts will be able to explain that even more. So this is really a huge development. And then if they're on a visa, right? If they're on a green card, and they're caught doing this kind of stuff, they can't come into the United States. So where are they going to money launder, right? Where are they going to clean all their illicit proceeds, right? So it makes things very, very difficult. And, now I'm just touching, it's just the tip of the iceberg. So, taking down all of the cartel leaders, and then the USA, the money, turning off the spigot. That's why I think Ted Cruz is so upset, because the spigot is being turned off there in the Strait of Hormuz. The illicit spigot, right? The illicit money coming in from there, and making it legitimate. It's got him upset, right? And that he knows De La Vega Foster, Alejandra De La Vega Foster, he absolutely knows, because she was on Greg Abbott's administration. She's in those circles, right? She's the chair for his inaugurations, right? So yeah, it's very clear. You can piece it together, and understand what's going on and who's controlling who. So I remember UTEP was hit by a bullet from Juarez. Wow. Yeah, it's just very close. Mucho love, Gold Star Mom. Happy to join you today. Thank you so much, Debbie. Thank you for all your prayers and all your love. And I'm so glad to come on a little bit earlier. I had this opportunity, but I know it's going to be a late night for other things, because there's a lot going on behind the scenes. We don't stop, and we want you to know that. And we want to thank you all for sharing all your information with us. We don't get back to you because, we don't have the resources to do all that, but know that we are absolutely paying attention. And we just thank you so much for sharing. And then tomorrow, when the petition comes out, please sign the petition. And not only sign the petition, but get 5, 10, 15, 20 people, as many as you can, to sign it also. And by doing that, explaining what happened to Richard, explaining the real documents, the real evidence, explain Mayella to them, explain Nadal Baim to them, explain the El Paso cartel and the Sinaloa cartel connection with Abbott-Campos, and what was about to happen to us if it wasn't for President Trump and Richard, and inspire them to sign the petition to honor Richard with medals. With medals that whatever the review decides to award Richard with. Maybe all of them. I think they should do all of them. But we'll see. So thank you so much. And I will be back tomorrow, God willing.